What are we working on today? Today, the plan is to make things a little bit better when we're launching our application, or the game, I guess. There you are. So right now, when we launch the application or the game, we have a nice big pause that happens. We saw that we've sped that up quite a bit by just making it so that it's a smaller grid that's like creating, but then there's a larger grid that creates the second time. What I really want to do is not have the first grid happen, like the first grid creation that doesn't get used happen at all. So what that means is here in the world, we have mod, we have default, and we're creating this grid. And then we have all these builder functions like set gravity, set size. And the problem that I'm seeing here is that because they mutate self and they return self, I'm not going to be able to use them like normally. And second of all, they're resetting the grid quite often. So what I'm thinking is either the reset grid happens externally, or we set up the builder pattern, properly. So a proper builder pattern, we can use an external struct that builds this one that sort of collects everything that it needs, and then we call build, and that's when it would reset grid for us. The other thing is, like, in our world, if we ever want to like have different levels that have different widths or heights, that's also like something to keep in mind. We might want to sort of like have a level and pass that in to the world when we create it, and then that is that would set its width, that would set its height, that would set the unit size. Well, the unit size would probably not change, and that would at that point in time create the grid when we load the level. And that way we can do things like have levels with different levels of gravity that are different sizes. So that might be best too. So what I'm thinking of is that adding in a new function, and so moving away from having default here. Or at least default should probably do all the things and not allow you to like add anything new. That's my guess. Excuse me. I almost forgot that I had the ability to mute on this system instead of trying to mute on the mic directly. All right. Hey, kitty cat, are you happy? Oh, you're gonna chew in a box now. All right. So new, we can then. So this is, we probably want to take in like a level. So we probably want some idea of like what a level is. And then the level will have like a gravity amount, a size. The unit size will probably set the same because we're going to have that be across the entire universe, as it were. So in reality, in that case, my default, I don't want to set the gravity. In a way, we almost want the grid to be optional, don't we? Like, we only need the grid when we need the grid. So maybe we can even make this an option that would have a grid. This will be a world. And, I'm thinking maybe in this case, so if we're creating something, we want to set so if we want to create things and then be able to set them later on, I want to update these so they're not returning self and then taking ownership of it. So I'm thinking our new will just be create a new world with the default settings. So this is just going to return self default. And then under default, the big thing that we're going to notice here is grid. You can be a none. So we're not going to worry about you. Gravity is going to be set to, okay, yeah, we're just setting gravity to a vector new, which is 0, 0. So we have no gravity. We can set this to like 1, 0. We have like a width and a height and a unit width and unit height. I'm thinking eventually I want to pull this out and like even have just the idea of a level in here as an entire struct, because that could be passed through to different, like the draw systems, which I think is going to be really important for us. So until then, I'm going to keep that in right now. And I think the big thing is that we just want a none for the grid, or a sum for the grid when we build it. And so reset grid, what this means to us is, I should call reset grid manually to sort of reset this right now. We'll probably have something else that does this later, and we can refactor at that point in time. So we're going to do self.grid equals some grid. Now, for the rest of these, they're just yelling at me because there's a none in there, or there's a possibility of a none in there. So we don't know that we have a grid off of an option. So we have to get that out. So if let some grid self.grid. And in this case, I want a mutable reference to a grid. And then you go in there. We're going to have to do the exact same thing here. So if let some grid equals, this is draw, so I don't need this mutable. So it could be just a reference to self.grid. So then we'll query for the entities, and then we have them. Update, so mutable self.grid. And then wherever we have self.grid, we want to update that to just grid. And that makes that all happy here. Okay, so that should be a lot faster now. When we launch, it should just go straight into the game. There you go. None of that sort of flashiness. The other thing that I was thinking of is in the grid, when we're creating all the cells, we're putting a cell in here regardless if there's anything in here. I'm thinking that we actually have the cells be a vec, so a cell, a vec, and instead of cell, this could be an option cell. So that way, if there's nothing, like if there's no items in that cell, it's a none. So we can just push a none in here. Now, if it's none, I think I might actually be able to get away with, instead of this inner for loop here, because this is for each row across, I might be able to create this row here as a none, and then the number of them, that's going to be the width. Oh, okay. Even though a none, because an option cell has to implement clone. Okay, so that doesn't work. I was hoping that the option would work, that I could just clone that, but apparently not. So instead, we'll just do this where we push none in there, and that should be fine. And then we push the row in. And so now on top of that, it's going to be like a much smaller initial grid that gets created too. But now we have to update all these because it's possible that there's a none in this cell. So in reality, we have to first, okay, so for insert, we have to check to see if there's anything in a cell. And if there is, insert it. Otherwise, create the cell and then insert it. All right, so what would that be? That would be a if let some cell equals mute, and then that's where this comes in. Okay, so if it's a cell, we're going to cell.insert entity. Now, if there isn't a cell, if it's a none, then we want to create the cell. So let and we have to give it the width and a height, and we have the cell width and the cell height here. And so I think we can store these away. Either that, or we can store them here and then not have the cell, the individual cells, care about them. And that might be important too, because the cell might just say, you know what, I just don't care what's in here. And if that's the case, I guess we still need some of these methods wrapped around it, but we wouldn't need either of these things. Because, like, are we doing anything with the width and height in here besides storing them away? It doesn't look like it. So I don't think we actually need this at all. I think we just need the entities. So we just have a struct that's just thinly wrapped around this vector. So we have the cell width and cell height. Those get stored here. Instead of passing them in for new cell, we have none, and then we're going to pass in cell width, cell height. And so here we can have just a cell new. That gives us a cell. We're going to insert into it the entity. And then we would need to insert the entity into here. So and so then set u equal to cell. And it's actually going to be a sum cell. Okay, so that should make that happy. Kitty cat's not there. Turn you off. Maybe turn off? Nope. Doesn't want to listen to me? Okay. Then get all. Okay, so basically it's a possibility this is a none. So we have to get the cell out first. So if let sum cell equals u. Now we have this cell. Oh, we don't need this entities.push. Wait, so oh right, this is the entities that we're like extracting out. So if that cell, so you are what we're getting out. Okay, so then if we have the cell, then we're going to use that push cell.getAll. There we go. Next up. Get all mutes. Okay, so we want to, what is this doing? This is get all entities mutable. So we're doing the same thing. We have this entities vector here. Let's see, self.cells, they're mute for each. Okay, so we're getting a row, but it's a vector of options. So then we have this row and iter mute. So the cell is an option. So what might be best is for us to multi-line this. And then we can do an if let sum cell equals, then we could rename this to like a maybe cell. And then we know, okay, if we have this cell, then we can say, okay, entity is a push, cell.getAll mute, and let's see, I think we need to move you down here. Yeah. All right, next, get all cloned. Same thing. We have our entities. We want to, so here's our option cell. We could rename this to the maybe cell. Okay, so if we have a cell, then push that cell and get all clones. Okay, more problems up here. Oh, cannot move out. I don't want to move you out. This is a query, so we're getting a reference. So we just need a reference here. Down here. Okay, so we're testing that you know what the width is, and we don't really care about that. So we don't need to test that. Okay, so right. So we're testing that if we just manually run get all and then get the first one here, we're gonna have location X and 0, 0. So I think we should probably do this in multiple runs here. And this is insert entity. So we first want to test like, heck, there is no none anymore. So just going to be assert matches, and we're going to have, it's got to be not matches. That grid.cells 0, 0 is no longer a none. Okay. And once we test that, we want to like reach into it. So then it'll be an if let sum. This will be the cell. We'll grab you out. Now we have this cell. It can just be a reference to it. We don't really need to own it. We then want to assert that this cell that get all, the first one in there, and its location is 0. Okay. Then we're doing a very similar thing. We're having an entity. Okay, so what are you upset about? You're upset because I don't have anything on the left here. You need to be, I thought I added that in. I must have missed it. This is good that cells, you. Okay, then we have an entity. We're going to insert that entity. We want to assert equal. So this is another one of these matches. So we can have you again. So you need to be not matches, grid cells 1 and 1. You're no longer none. And then another if let. Then we'll do our cell to get all, and then check its location to make sure that it's correct. And that's no more errors. Let's actually do a full testing because we haven't run that in a while. Yeah, it's sort of what I figured. We'd have a few errors. Okay, so where's our first one? It's entity line 114. So entity.location on the left is this rectangle, and on the right, the big difference is width is 5, and we weren't expecting that. So if we take a look at this in our default, we set the width to be 5. So if we put this back, then our test should be fine again. That, or at least that one is. Okay, so set location is next. So mod for world, line 112. Okay, so world gravity and gravity, right? Because I set the default to be 0, and I am okay with like leaving it as default. Might as well. We kind of need to like set it to be whatever is going to be in our config anyways. And then what are you? Okay, we have a height in here. That was in the grid, I think. Oh, wait. No, that was an entity. Just 2 errors left. Right, so now if we have our default size, and that's in the world, that's you. If we put this back to 5,000, it shouldn't matter anymore. Because it's just a none. And then test set world unit size. Let's see, left is 10. Oh, because I think we set these to be 1 and 1. Okay, so everything passes. And if we try to run this, it shouldn't. Let's see. That's that first one, and we see that it started up here. So we only ran the grid information once, which is perfect for this. So we build the grid once. And is that true? Are we building a grid multiple times still? Oh yeah, we are. Okay, so we need to now update this to be like a better, proper builder pattern now. What we did was we made the grid cheaper to build, but it doesn't really matter when you still have 5,000 by 5,000. That's what, like 25 million? That's a huge number, even for like, a good computer. So what can we do with this? I want to probably do something like in our main library. We're creating a new world, and then that's our world. And then we probably want to return a mutable reference at that point in time until we call build on it. Or maybe this sets like, yeah, we probably want like a build that build resets the grid and does all of those things. So we want to like set the gravity, set the size, set the unit size, and then something like .build. And then that's when we get the world out of here. And I may need to create like a world builder. We'll see. So first of all, I don't want these to return self anymore. If possible, I would love to return just a mutable self. And then instead of this, we take in a mutable reference. So you're returning a self. And default is doing the same thing. Okay, so then all you're yelling about is the build now. And you're yelling about, okay, now we're going to have set gravity. Let's see, what are you yelling about? Expected struct world found a mutable reference to a world. Let's see, for set gravity, mutable reference to self, and return a mutable reference to self. Oh, yes, we need to actually return a mutable reference to self. In fact, I guess I'm returning a mutable reference to self, but it doesn't really matter at the end. Build can like return the full thing. I'm surprised it wasn't yelling at me up here. Right, so world default does give me a world. Let's go, so set gravity. Maybe let's find out like what the, let's add in build, because it might be yelling at me about that too. And then we're not going to take anything in. We're going to return a full, and I wonder here if I should do this in like 2 steps then. We first create a new world. So something like this. We do world new. Then we have world dot. We set the gravity, we set the size, we set the unit size, and then we build it. So in build, we're going to return. I don't necessarily think we need to return anything at all. Build is the final stop here. So we just take an immutable reference to self. This is where we want to do the self reset grid. And that's pretty much it. So you only need to reset the grid once now as part of this, as opposed to twice, where we were. Oh yeah, reset grid was also like actually setting up the grid. So even though I was creating it with as a none here, it's not really helpful when I call reset grid and then it just sets it multiple times. So if I do this, it should only be setting it once now. Okay, so cannot borrow. Self is mutable. I might actually be able to return you as just that then, because it's coming in as mutable self. Okay, and then I don't want to have to say, let's see, so these are in test. So the test need to sort of change the shape now. We want to just be able to say, create the world, we then world.setGravity, like this. Ah, man, I was really hoping this would work, but it's capturing the uppercase one too, which is not exactly what I wanted. So we just mutate there, and now no more errors. So if I run cargo test, everything should still pass. And if we run this, it's significantly faster. There's still a little bit of that flashing as it's creating the grid. That first time once at the end, I think that's fine for right now because we need to create the grid at some point in time. But we're now only creating it once, and it's a smaller, lighter grid than it was before. So that's good at least. Now, what could be really nice is we could even have, if we eventually have the different, like the starting soon screen and then the actually going screen, that could allow us to delay the creation of the grid until we start like the game proper. And then we wouldn't even have the flashing because the context would already be fully created and would be resetting the background to black at every single frame, instead of here where we're doing that before really that happens. It's actually an interesting question. We're taking in context. So the context is created, but we haven't started drawing the background yet. And I think that's our problem. That's why it's flashing white for us. Okay. So that gives us our world. And now if I want to actually have those objects collide together, which is really what we want to do, we want to give our entities a size. And I think we kind of forgot to do that. We have this location gives us a width and a height too, but we don't have anything where we can like set the width and height here. So let's add in a test for that. This is gonna be set entity size. All right, so what I want to do, we want to first create a new entity, and we know that it's going to have like a 0 and 0. So let mute entity equals entity new. I think keep on liking just to use new. I want to go back to that. Might just be habit though. So create a new entity with the default with the default values. And I think I can do this. And this will be, this is what's known as a doc test. This is going to actually be run as part of my tests. So the documentation must actually work. So we can do let mute entity equals entity new. Something like this. Okay, so then we're gonna have a new entity here. Then I want to test, and so like I guess it is a question is, do I need these tests here? Would it be better for me to make these as doc tests? Let's experiment with that. So if I want to create a new function to set size, let's do something like set the size of the entity. Set the width and height of the entity. So what would this look like? This would be we're gonna have to create the entity first, so mute entity. So we could do something like player equals entity new. Then we're gonna do player dot set size, and we're gonna want to set this to something like 50.0, 50.0, and that's gonna be its width and height. And then we can even have some asserts, I think, in here. So assert equal we want to assert equal that the player size is now this. So it's going to be player dot width. You can see it's actually player dot location. Location dot w is going to be equal to 50.0. So that's what we want to have happen. This should fail because we don't have a set size. We can run this doc test though. And it fails saying, hey, you can't do that. Use of undeclared type or module entity. Oh, do I need to pull that in first? Using different values for width and height could be better. Yeah, I kind of agree. I was really hoping that I can use like the location for that, but you're probably right that I probably want to have like a width and a height separately here. So let's just do that. We'll have width as F32. F32. Then in here we can have player dot width, player dot height. I don't know if asserts are a good idea in doc tests. I was this is an experiment because I haven't really played with doc tests too much. So if we do this, we're going to set size. The width is now going to be that. The height is going to be that. Obviously you're upset because this doesn't exist yet. So let's go ahead and fix that. Function, set size. I mean, in tests, that would prevent, for example, typos like width equals W, height equals W. Oh, you mean like this? Yeah, like 150. Then we can say 150 there. Yeah, that's very true. I've just been going back and forth on this also, so I'm not exactly sure. That I really... Oh, you know what I can do? I can make getters for this. And like internally here. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Like get width, get height could be reaching into location. Oh, okay. I got it. Then set size. This can be mutable self, width, which is an F32, and a height, which is an F32. We're not going to return anything. We're just going to mutate. So we're going to say self dot location dot w equals width, self dot location dot height equals height, and that's it. So I'm curious, do you work? No, you do not. Oh, I need to pull it in, don't I? Do I need to like mod it? It doesn't have access to it in this scope? Like, use entity? No entity in the external crate. What's my, or is it self? Risk Analyzer is not really giving me much help here. Yeah, no. Oh, wait, I'm in the root. Oh, okay, hold on. And are you gonna help me pull anything? No. Okay, so I need to use create entity. Unresolved. Okay, so. Oh, okay, so I need to use create, probably entity. Something like that. It still doesn't know that. Okay, missing create entity. Okay, so it doesn't know what that is. Okay, so this is the thing where I'm like not exactly sure how I'm supposed to set this up. I don't think that's appropriate. Yeah, it still doesn't know where entity comes from. And that's our problem. Even though I'm inside of like set size here. So I guess I would be curious if we go to the documentation. See, here's, I guess this is my documentation. That's not really helpful, but we can go to GGEZ. Let's go find some documentation that they have. Like, okay, so. Maybe like context builder. Yeah, okay, yeah. So here's, okay, so they do use GGEZ context builder at the beginning here. And if we go take a look at this, add zip file bytes. Oh, they have ignore. Interesting, okay. But it looks like they use, okay, so use essentially the crate, context, and a context builder, and then they're able to do this. So they need that use statement at the beginning. And if we go back to our code, if we go into our main library, we have entity. So then in here, we have use. This be game template platform entity. Would you be happier? Oh, the module entity is private. No, you're not. You're public right there. entity line 57. So I'm not allowed to get that? Do I need to pub it here? Private module, which it's not. Also, it's not here. Interesting. Okay. So the module is defined here. Oh, okay. So it's defined here in lib.line 4. Wait a second. Okay, it's grabbing here. So this, okay, hold on. You're public. Got it. I had a second declaration for the module. That's why. Okay, so then player. So we're back to here, which is going to be player.location.w is that. Player.location.height is that. And okay, so now that passes. So we could write a bunch of our tests in like as doc tests here as well. We don't get quite as nice like auto completion from Rust Analyzer, but I guess like it also makes sense because when I run and create this documentation, it's gonna look better. For this, what is our? Okay, this is the game template platform. So if I do a doc build, we should see that documentation now. It has to build all the docs for everything now. Also, I forgot to say good morning, but good morning, Letnam. Almost done. 2 more. Okay, let's go take a look at this. Hit refresh. What I want to do is I want to head back to our crate. So this is basically our entity. It's almost night there, but oh, night on your side. Okay. Well, good night. Good evening. Good night always makes it sound like, just going to sleep. I want to go to crate GGZ. I want to go to my crate. Okay, here we go. Game template platform, entity. So here's the entity. Here's this set size. And here's this documentation, like the test we just wrote. So we get free documentation with it. How to use it. So we have our use statement. Let player. We create the player. We set the size. And then we have our asserts that these are now what they're supposed to be. Perfect. All right. And this doesn't show the defaults, right? Okay, it does not. So we can try switching over and writing a bunch of tests that way, and then we get the free documentation out of it, and the testing also makes sense, and the tests are going to be right next to the functions that we're writing, which is going to be also nice to update them when we need to. All right, so now that we have the way to set our size. Let's make sure that we're actually setting our size. So we're creating our player here. So we're creating a player, and then I want to update this to be exactly the same that we have here with our world. So I want to do something like we have entity new. Then I want to make this a mutable player to begin with. And then we're going to say player. We set the location. We set the draw system. We set that it's affected by gravity. We set that it's we give it a physics system, and then also we have to set the size. And we have to give it like a width and a height. Let's see, do we have that in here? We don't have a sort of like a width and a height of what our player is expected to be. In our player, let's see, what do we have here? In our drawables, for this player, we're just manually setting this. Let's see, where is that? Our radius is just 10. We're just hard coding that because why not? So this should be 10 by 10. But if we do this, we need to make sure that all these are set the way we want to. Okay, so then we're going to add the player in. Because you all should be mutating what we expect you to. Okay, so we're back to entity. So we create a new self here, and then at all these sets, I kind of want these to now be returning a mutable self. And we're going to take a mutable reference to self, and then set the location here. And there's really not much else we need to do with this. Hello, Chantilly. How are you doing today? I know for you it's morning. Good morning to you. Pretty good? Awesome. Okay, and then we have our draws, and so then the rest of this is just going to be these tests that are upset because of the way that we wrote them. So we can update these to be our doc tests type things. So if we have this entire thing where we're trying to set the locations. Let's update that here. So we're going to say set the location of the entity. We are using a rectangle to ggez rect to store the. I think that modern, like the latest, allows us to even reference something else. So I might be able to like send a link to like a ggz rect too. That might be nice. To store the location and size data together. So what this looks like. Let's go ahead, finish that. All right, I want to, we have to have our use statement first. So use. I really wish, like, can I not use create here? That would be really nice. So create, entity, then let, for example, we're gonna do new player, entity new, then I want to update the location. So we're gonna have player dot set location, and we can say something like 50.0, 65.0. And then we should have like our assert equal player dot location dot x is going to be equal to 50.0. And that's 65.0. And that's this test gone. So I would love to make sure that everything is still working as expected. So you're all upset. So I'm going to comment you out. I still have several errors. Let's go fix those. All right, so what are you yelling at me about? You're yelling because expected entity found a reference to entity. So we have a platform equals entity. Right, okay. So switch this to new. We're going to say platform. Let's make this mutable. And then these are going to be a lot more happy. Cannot borrow data in a reference as mutable. So mute. So you're an actual entity. So you should return, yeah, a mutable reference to entity. Oh, and set draw system does not. So for each of these, yes, you do need to return a mutable reference. And you probably also need to return a mutable reference, so it can be used as part of that same pattern. Okay, cannot borrow data in a reference as mutable. It's now trying to. So it's returning a mutable reference to self. It's taking a mutable reference to self. Oh, wait. Am I... Yeah, okay. So mutable reference to self. We're updating the location. We're returning mutable reference to self, and we're just sort of returning what we got in. So that should be that should be fine here, except it's very much not happy with this. Oh, look at this. Okay. Set affected by gravity is not returning the right one. That's the one that's, I think. Yeah. Okay, I missed you. Okay, so entity. So let's see. These are in the grid. We're testing how to create these entities here. So that we need to update these tests so that we create like a new entity like this. And then we have our entity and we set the location. And you should probably be the exact same thing here. Okay, so you have entity 1, you're just default. So you need to be mute. You need to be mute. We're going to hit return, entity. We're going to go up one line, over a little bit, select that word, copy, and paste. Oh, and I missed the semicolon there. Okay, so you should be happy, and then down to you. Okay, so then same thing for you. We create a new, need you to be mutable. Okay, then we set our physics system, we insert you, and then we do all that fun stuff. Okay. No errors. All right, we have some failed tests though. In the doc test. Okay, so in entity, line 20. Line 20. Failed. Failed to resolve use of undeclared type or module entity. Okay, I was really hoping... Wait, no. Okay, we need to set this up. So use create... entity. Unresolved import. Oh, a similar path. Okay, so it really wants me to use this the crate name here. I was really hoping to get away from that, so that way when I like copy this template over and use it somewhere else, I don't need to go through and update everything here to work with that. So that is a little bit of a bummer. Like a little bit of a sed won't like hurt with that. And maybe there's a macro that like can do that for me. But okay, so let's do this. We're gonna have to say use template platform entity. Then you should be happy here. We have one more failure, which is the exact same problem on line 30. So right here. So you are... All right. And all the tests pass. If we come back to our main library and, okay, so we're setting our size to be 10 and 10, which is the same size as the circle, the radius. In the platform, we need to set its size too. So set size. Now, what is our platform size? I don't think we're think our drawables have it, but we're not doing it anywhere else. So create platform. You are just a standard world width and world unit height. So we can use that. So this is going to be our world dot unit width, unit height. So if I do this and we run you, does our player now, when it falls and hits this this square, just sort of stand? I mean, kind of. It's kind of sinking into it, unfortunately. So it's not. It's like close, but not exactly what we want it to be. So what could we do for this? This is going to be in the player physics engine. We're doing this collision and we're saying like, okay, are you overlapping? Like, is the squares for this? Yeah, peekaboo. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm here. Oh no, I'm not. So you can see we're killing the velocity if we're overlapping. And we're trying to reset the location back to where it's supposed to be. And so we see that happening. But I'm thinking that we also want to maybe like have a state where like, are we affected by gravity? Is maybe a Boolean that could be set if we're standing. So if we do something like is affected by gravity. I'm not sure this is the right answer to use here. If we have this as like a Boolean, we're going to start you off by is affected by gravity is false. We're only going to, well, okay, so this is where the problem is that this apply force is happening to us like at this moment. So we would need this to be public, and then in entity, when we update, if self dot affected by gravity. Ooh, okay. It's actually as part of this entity here. Take a look at this. Affected by gravity is a Boolean here. So we don't actually want that here. What we probably want is to pass this in part of our update. And then we can turn that on or off. So that way we can choose to just stop updating with the gravity. So if we do something like have is affected by gravity, you're a Boolean. And in reality, I want this to be a mutable reference to a Boolean, which is like might sound a little bit odd, but I wanted to say that if we hit, wait a second, I want to add you here. This is the entity. I want to add you in here in this update. Peyton rules rating with a party of 6. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Peyton, and hello, Raiders. Peyton, I briefly looked at what you were working on before, and I can't remember off the top of my head when I first started streaming. How's your stream? What were you working on? Although I might have to wait until the advertisements are all done for everyone. Like, I feel like I need to like be frozen in here until like I get confirmation in chat that like you're all in. You had a fight with parsing URLs. Parsing one today. Is that good? Is that you won the fight? Or is that the parsing one against you? I don't know. Alkeas, hello. Yes, Twitch ads are great. I don't. I wish there was like maybe with raids if they could turn off the advertisements. I don't know. Like it would be. There's got to be a better way of doing that, but I don't know. I don't work at Twitch. I can't like suggest to them how to do their job better. All right. Well, while splitting into, I'm guessing parts. One for now got into the weeds with pair.nth taking ownership and mutability. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, whenever we get into weeds of the borrow system, that's clearly a fun time. Since we got rated, Peyton rules, let's go ahead and play the Get the Streamer game. So I'm gonna do cargo run, release. Pairs, not Paris. Okay, got it. You split them into different pairs. For those of you who have come in who have not played this game before, we do this when we get rated. It's a game that we made live on stream. You're gonna throw things at me using these commands on the right, like #fire, #sword, #snake. I'm going to do my best to avoid you all. While also checking chat and sort of like hanging out with you all. It's a way to celebrate the raid. We also have a point system for this. So I know, Peyton, you have a bunch of points now. We'll see. We've gotten a few raids in the last couple days, so we've gotten more points coming in. I had to take the hit there. Oh, I thought I could get away with it. Last life. Oh man, I forget, like I made it so I can't like avoid jumping too high. Peyton rules, you got 39 points for a total of 121, and Alkeus, welcome to the game. You with 16 points. Awesome. I got over halfway through it though. That's good. The columns are on top. Yeah, the columns are on the top. All right, so now what are we doing here? I'm building a template for a game platform. Like, it's not really an engine. It's on top of GGEZ, which is the same game engine I used to make that Get the Streamer game. I want to make a bunch of like platformers, and I'm building a template out to sort of like explore, learn, and like apply a lot of game programming patterns that we learned in previous streams into this, and then I'm going to create a game from it. So it's not really a that's why I call it a template instead of a engine itself. It's really just like default set on top of an engine, if that makes sense. So if we have this is affected by gravity, I know it's yelling at me because the trait doesn't have this, but we'll add that in later. Is affected by gravity. Then I want to come down here. And so, okay, if we overlaps. Okay, so if we're not collidable, well, hold on. if we collide, then, well, okay, so this is going to be interesting. I need to tell to see if I'm standing on top of a platform, and I think that like technically this is gonna work, but I foresee problems if I like jump into the side of a platform or if I like jump into it from the bottom. This is gonna be like not the best solution. But I could basically say is affected by gravity, and now set this to false. And I need to dereference this so I make sure that I'm affecting like the original one, and then that will stop me from thinking into it or falling anymore. So if we now add this is affected by gravity in to the trait here, but I'm not really happy with this this system itself. Okay, so what are you upset about now? Yeah, we don't actually need you. One error. Now we need to pass in the immutable reference to self dot affected by gravity. Where is that? There it is. So technically this should work, but I think we're going to run into bugs later. There's that other fun thing where it's like moving fast enough that it's going into it and then resetting the size properly. We can also do things like, I think we're probably going to want to have like a type system so I can check to see the types. Oh, am I standing on you? So we're probably going to want like a state that we have on you. So like something like we're going to have maybe like a state, which would be some kind of player state, which obviously doesn't exist yet. So let's create it. So we're going to do hub enum player state. We can have something like falling and standing. So state, you're going to be a player state. Falling is what you start with. What are you upset about? Oh, we need to implement debug for this. Oh, that's fine. We can derive debug. Then, instead of like setting this is affected by gravity false, I want to set self.state equals standing. Okay, so we're standing now, which means I don't actually need to pass this in. So that makes it a little bit nicer here. But we do need to, okay, so if self.affected by gravity, and we're not, so if we're affected by gravity and we're not standing. That's the big thing. So and not matches, and this is going to be our physics system dot state. So you need to be public. Is going to be a player state. No field. Oh, okay. So we need to get the state of this. It needs to be a function on entities. No, physics systems. So we need to do something like function get state. You're gonna be a reference to self, and we're gonna return. Okay, so then we probably want in here to just have a pub entity state here. Pub trait entity state. Here's where we're gonna have like falling and standing. So we're gonna return an entity state. You're gonna have to be like, I want to say that this would be stored in the physics engine, but this probably makes more sense to be stored in the entity itself, and so therefore not actually be part of this. Like if I do that, we go back to an entity, and we store you here. So we say like pub. Here, let's actually create a new file for it. Okay, so if we're gonna create a new file, we're gonna have. All right, you know what? It's 8:32. I think I'm gonna have to leave this for next time. So I'm gonna clean everything up, make it all pass. So I'm gonna remove you, but we're gonna put a comment in here, which is if self is affected by gravity and we are standing and we are not standing, then we apply the force, like apply the gravity force. It's also possible that we could just run physics system update, pass in the gravity force, and it will determine if it should be, okay, so this is another one. I also want to pass in the gravity force and then the update function will determine if the gravity force should be applied. We will also want to create and pass in an entity state here for updating. Okay, that kind of makes sense to me. So that way we can then update our own state, and it could be like the state of many different things. So like platforms would not have, like, they would not be falling or anything else. We're probably going to want a type too, so we can see if we're on top of, if we're touching a platform and we're on top of it, that's when we switch over to standing. Otherwise, we're just hitting it. So all sorts of fun things to do. Let's also clear up some of these warnings. not using draw mode or mesh builder here. Or the color white. Let's see, we're not using create grid. We're never using create grid. That feels odd that we're oh wait. Right, we're not using create grid anymore. I don't think we need to actually show that off. So I'm just going to remove create grid. We're not, yeah, we don't have this here. I don't need you, and we don't need you. Okay, so then we don't need, we're not having any of these tests. We can just remove this entire section. Collidable. How do you spell collidable? Hey, that's actually a word. Add it to everything. Okay. Cell is never read. Cell width and cell height. Yeah, we're not using it yet, but we probably will be in the future. That being said, let's make this hub, and that should stop yelling this, I think. Yeah. Draw and drop param. Okay, and then collidables is just an unknown word. Well, if it's collidable, it's also collidables. There you go. No more errors. Okay, so we should be able to do a cargo test. Everything passes, including those doc tests that we're creating. So perfect. Let's go ahead and push this all on up. The big thing that we did today is we push, so it's cargo push. No. What did we do? We refactored creating the world and grid to be smaller and make more sense. Basically to be smaller and cheaper. Also, the player is kind of hitting the platform now. My entire idea for this is I want like a level that's going to have all the different platforms on it that are like throughout the entire world. We're going to query for whatever's on the screen. We're going to hand that to the draw system for the platforms, and it's going to try to merge them all together for a single draw. So we're going to have an update for the draw, and then a draw for the draw. Yeah, I didn't say that right, but that's the general idea we want to do. I'm going to push this on up. All this code is available at Bang repo, and you can go follow along if you so desire. Until then, let's go ahead and take a look. Is there anybody that I'm following that we can raid? Let's see. So we're looking at, I am Hardliners streaming Super Mario World. This fantasy RPG, Town of Vel. Oh, there's some art going on. There's gaming going on. More art going on. Begin bot is streaming. Does anybody else have any ideas for